Um, I agree that Gen AI, I'm supposed to talk about how to educate researchers, but it may start much earlier. I absolutely agree with Paul on this. And when I saw the assignment, I said, okay, researchers in AI itself, so they develop new algorithms, they develop new techniques, methodologies, or researchers in computing in general that may use AI, or researchers in any field that use AI. I won't talk about the first kind, so the heavy core AI, and some of them are in this room, but I'll talk about doing other research and using Gen AI. First of all, many researchers, at least in computing, system researchers have to code. These are the most successful. You build systems. And we have to be teaching them already from undergraduate level, at least, if not earlier, how to code in the new programming language called prompts. That's the way it is kind of happening a little bit, cautiously and so on, but down the line, much of the coding will be done in the language called prompts. Of course, you have to understand what the correct software that comes out is, so that you have to still learn the basics. But this is important, and in my last course last semester, one of the assignments was do it in prompts, and if I realize that you wrote part of the code, then you're kicked out of class, whereas usually it is, if you use help, you're kicked out of class. So, and it was an experience. Currently, you cannot give them a big thing, build it, and then it will do it. You have to break it down in pieces, but it's working. But coming to the let's say, educating a researcher, starting from undergraduate level and masters. I don't know about courses at the PhD level, but anyway, Gen AI will play a big role. And I looked at the ACM is the leading society for coming up with the standard undergraduate curriculum. And just a few months ago, CS 2023 came out, 10 years after the previous version, with a EEE, AAAI, and so on. And the knowledge area, artificial intelligence, is much, much bigger compared to the past. And in fact, as this was being developed, AI was going so fast that they were changing it continuously. And now in the description of this knowledge area of artificial intelligence, Gen AI is mentioned 18 times in a document that, that says how AI should be taught. Gen AI in vision, Gen AI in natural language processing, and so on. So this is at the core of what all these committees that formed that talked about the need to develop Gen AI. And it's, for me, I mean, there's a huge hype of AI. I think you mentioned it in your previous panel, how things have come and gone, or maybe it was Barry that was mentioning it. And I'm a data guy, so I'll say something about data now, but I'm not biased. I think I'm quite objective. AI without data is useless. Okay, it is if you have a car, whether it's a Yugo or a Lamborghini, it doesn't matter, that you don't put oil in it. The correct kind of oil to run. So curriculum and developing researchers by just teaching them the algorithms and techniques and tricks of AI without teaching them data science is really doing a disservice to the researcher. And because the right type of data will make a difference on whether the AI will give you something. And algorithmic bias and data bias is critical in terms of understanding what the results of an AI algorithm or a technique will give you. And that's an important issue of inclusion. I mean, you mentioned about African values. I would be interested to know what are these African values and how they differ from other values. But certainly, if you have a medical application and you have US data and you say, whenever you have thalassemia, this is the percentages and this is what matters, this is bullshit when you leave the US and come to Greece or any other place in the Mediterranean where it's much more prevalent, or I'm not sure about Namibia. So data bias, the techniques around it, algorithmic bias, and everything else is very important with respect to inclusion. And in general, in terms of teaching, all of our teaching in terms of how we do research and what is science is top-down. We teach our students in any field rules, what holds. In electricity, in social sciences, in economics, there are a whole bunch of rules. Now, with data science and AI, we're doing bottom-up research, bottom-up science. And this requires a very completely different way of thinking of how we do research in any of these fields. And I think even at the undergraduate level, when we teach science, we have to teach it in both ways. And I think this will be a fundamental change of what we teach our students. That's my first and very high-level thoughts on what we need to do to teach researchers to do research, and any aspects that have to do with globalization. But let me say one more little comment. Researchers also need to publish. And we need to teach researchers in the era of AI, what does publication mean? Now, in ACM, we came up with policy that if you use Gen AI in your paper, you can only use it to correct it and this and that, and you have to declare it. Not changing the language or spelling, that's, you don't have to declare that. But if any part of your text has been generated by AI of whatever form, you have to declare it. Now, of course, how do you detect it if someone did, if this part is a person's and so on? But there is the dilemma. Let's assume, I don't think currently this is true, but let's assume that at some point a Gen AI system comes up with a discovery and writes the paper about it. Shall we, as scientists, as society, in principle, we should care about this result, if it is novel and new and so on. We shouldn't care about who wrote it. But others say, no, this is a human endeavor, and we have to disallow it or mark it, with a red cross or something like this as different. This is a challenge. These are questions that the scientific community, certainly in the context of ACM, but in general in computing and elsewhere, are being discussed. And of course, you'll say, okay, I don't care who wrote it, I will review it. But then you may say, well, what about the reviewer being an AI that reads it and then generates a review? Okay, but then a human will review the review and say, yeah, this is correct. But what if an AI reviews the review and so on? So I think, and I'll stop with this, even in the scholarly communication endeavor that comes out of our research, there are tremendous challenges, but also exciting opportunities that involve ethical aspects as well, assessing people, or even assessing techniques. How do you do it in this new era? So that's a great interest there.